was that we were just the people to be the investigators.
Do any stories you want, ask tough questions, and get answers. So we thought, this is great. This is a dream job. Fantastic. The very first thing they had us do was not to research stories, but to shoot this promo, which was The Investigators.
Uncovering the truth, getting results, protecting you.
And they had a film crew and a smoke machine, and we were silhouetted.
Investigative reporter Steve.
One of the first stories that Jane came up with was the revelation that most of the milk in the state of Florida and throughout much of the country was adulterated with the effects of bovine growth hormone, the artificial hormone that farmers were injecting into their cows so that they would produce more milk.
With Monsanto, I didn't realize how effectively a corporation could work to get something on the marketplace. The levels of coordination they had to have. They had to get university professors into the fold. They had to get experts into the fold. They had to get reporters into the fold. They had to get the public into the fold. And of course the FDA, let's not leave them out. They had to get the federal regulators convinced that this was a fine and safe product to get it onto the marketplace. And they did that. They did that very, very well.
It's a great time to be a high-producing cow. Posilac One Step, bovine somatotropin by Monsanto.
The federal government basically rubber-stamped it before they put it on the marketplace. The longest test they did for human toxicity was 90 days on 30 rats.
Posilac is the single most tested new product in history and is now available to you specifically so you can increase your profit potential.
And then either Monsanto misreported the results to the FDA, or the FDA didn't bother to look in depth at Monsanto's own studies.
The scientists within Health Canada looked very carefully at bovine growth hormone and came to very different conclusions than the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. did.
Monsanto's engineered growth hormone did not comply with safety requirements. It could be absorbed by the body and therefore did have implications for human health. Mysteriously, that conclusion was deleted from the final published version of their report.
They knew there were problems. They saw serious potential human health problems, and they stood up in Canada and said, we're not going to approve this because we don't believe it's safe.
We have been pressured and coerced to pass drugs of questionable safety, including the RBST. I personally was very concerned that there's a very serious problem of secrecy, conspiracy, and things of that nature, and something needs to be done.
The FDA was then on the hot seat. They had to come up with an answer. They didn't come up with a good one, and they never took the opportunity then. I mean, what would they do? Pull it off the market and say, we need to now do the job that we didn't do the first time? They didn't do that.
We wrote the story. We had it ready a week beforehand. They bought ads.
Farmers in the milk industry say it's safe, but studies suggest a link to cancer. Don't miss this special report from the investigator.
That Friday night before the Monday the series was to begin, the fax machine spit out a letter from this very high-priced lawyer in New York that Monsanto had hired. It contained a lot of things that were just off-the-wall false, just demonstrably false. But if you didn't know the story and you didn't know how we had gone about producing it, would have scared you as a broadcaster, as a manager.
And they decided that they would pull the story and they would just check it one more time.
But the bottom line was that there was no factual errors in that story. Both sides had been heard from. Both sides had had an opportunity to speak.
1 week later, Monsanto sent the second letter. And this was even more strongly worded. And it said there will be dire consequences for Fox News if the story airs in Florida.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Monday, September 24th, 2012, and I'm Darko. I'm going to cover basically eugenics in this first video. The links will be posted in YouTube's video description, so if you'd like to go and check out the rest of that story, you can. Fox News kills Monsanto milk story. The first article I have for you is Minnesota farmer cleared in milk case. This is from the 20th. It says here, a soft-spoken Minnesota farmer was cleared of violating state laws for distributing raw milk on Thursday. Verdict advocates for such foods called their first major legal victory after a 3-day trial and hours of deliberation. It says here the Hennepin County jury found Alvin Schlangen not guilty of 3 misdemeanor counts of selling unpasteurized milk, operating without a food license, and handling adulterated or misbranded food. The trial highlighted a deep national divide between raw milk advocates who contend unpasteurized dairy products can relieve allergies and prevent illnesses and public health officials who warn that raw milk can cause serious and sometimes fatal diseases such as E. coli, Salmonella, and Listeria. So yeah, they always like to say, the public health officials, that it's a danger to the public. Well, the problem is when you think about how things are doublespeak, when they say that it's bad for the public, there's a good chance that it's actually good for the public. A good example is what vaccinations are good for the public, right? And not taking vaccinations is a threat to public health safety. And then, but then for West Nile virus, they can just go ahead and spray, which will possibly do you harm, but they say it's for the best of health and safety for the public. So, and for this farmer, you know, there's one place, I don't live around there anymore, but the way they got around it was they labeled the food as basically feed. It's for cows. It's not for human consumption. That's what they put on there, and somehow he's able to keep going. So, meet Monsanto's #1 lobbyist, Barack Obama. So during his 2008 campaign for President, Obama basically said that he understood the GMO issue, and several key anti-GMO activists were impressed. After the election, during Obama's term as president, people have been working to label GMO food and warn the public of its huge dangers were shocked to the core when they saw Obama had been pulling a bait and switch, as the new president filled key posts with Monsanto people and federal agencies that wield tremendous force food issues, the USDA and the FDA. At the USDA, as the director of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, Roger Beachy, former director of the Monsanto Danforth Center, as deputy commissioner of the FDA, the new food safety issue czar, the infamous Michael Tyler, former vice president for public policy for Monsanto. He had been instrumental in giving the approval for Monsanto's genetically engineered bovine growth hormone. As commissioner of the USDA, Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack set up a national group, the Biotechnology Partnership, and been given a Governor of the Year award by the Biotechnology Industry Organization, whose members include Monsanto. As a new agricultural trade representative who would push GMOs for export, this Islam Siddiqui, a former Monsanto lobbyist, a new counsel for the USDA, Ramona Romero, who had been a corporate counsel for another biotech giant, DuPont. As the new head of USAID, this Rajiv Shav, who had previously worked in key positions for the Bill and Melinda Eugenics Foundation, a major founder of GMO agricultural research. I remember this person, Alina Kagan. Obama nominated her to the U.S. Supreme Court. She had previously argued for Monsanto in the Monsanto versus Geerden seed cases before the Supreme Court. So it wasn't just short-term memory. He was staking out territory on behalf of Monsanto and other GMO corporate giants. Look at what key Obama appointees have brought, basically allowed to pass as far as GMO crops. GMO alfalfa, sugar beets, BT soybean, GMO sweet corn, all from Monsanto, then Syngenta's GMO corn for ethanol, Syngenta's stacked corn, GMO soybean, BT cotton, anti-clotting agent from the milk of transgenic goats, whatever, then GMO papaya strain, perhaps soon genetically engineered salmon and apples. It in fact makes Barack Obama the most genetically modified food-dedicated politician in America. Monsanto pesticide companies have now spent more than $19 million to kill Prop 37. In the latest campaign finance disclosure records released, says that the most evil corporation in the world, Monsanto, has forked over another $2.89 million to kill Proposition 37, the historic bill that, if passed, will require GM foods and food ingredients to be labeled at the retail level in California. So Monsanto has now officially shelled out more than $7 million to prevent consumers from knowing the truth about what is really contained in the foods they buy. Crazy. So along with Monsanto's latest contributions, the Big Six, DuPont, Bayer, Dow, BASF, Syngenta, gave more than $2.6 million to the No on 37 campaign as part of the most recent contributions. So most of the funding for the No on 37 is coming from GMO companies not even located in California. Moving on, Homeland Security is working for Monsanto, so not the only ones, right, besides the president. Homeland Security. It says the Monsanto lies are exposed. People must avoid GMOs at all costs or eat organic food if they are able to survive, if they are to survive. But Monsanto has been preparing for this day of public realization, corrupting the FDA. Monsanto's vice president, Michael Taylor, is charged of food safety and ensuring it through armed raids against organic farmers, organic co-ops, and mothers' organic buying clubs. The USDA, which has funded development of corn to sterilize humans. The EPA, which is going after hay on an inland ranch as a pollutant under the Clean Water Act, while ignoring serious oil spills in major rivers and other basically things that are happening to the environment. So unlike places like India, where they're having the GMO shoved down their throat, in the U.S. they have arranged for Homeland Security to define organic food. The only safe food is a biosecurity threat. So we're talking about bioterrorism preparedness. And it says here, an important goal of the network, which is funded by the Homeland Security Act, is to coordinate diagnostic and scientific expertise in the agricultural production and security in regard to agricultural pests and pathogens that could be used in bioterrorism. Homeland Security, in other words, would be acting for Monsanto and the pharmaceutical industry, force contaminating crops and animals and getting rid of those with normal DNA, and force contaminating people with GMO vaccines, destroying normal DNA and threatening everyone's lives. Homeland Security, acting on behalf of Monsanto, has bioterrorism laws in place to rub out organic food and animals as a biosecurity threat, even though it's patently obvious that the GMOs and Roundup is threatening human lives. Most of you are already aware of this news, and from France, the Monsanto's GMO corn causes cancer and organ damage in rats. So this is the image from the actual story. France's government on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, asked Health Watchdog to carry out a probe, possibly leading to EU suspension of genetically modified corn after a study in rats linked the grain to cancer. Then we have cancer in rats reignites GM food debate, so they're starting to debate about it, whether they should act on the finding, but some scientists have criticized the study, saying it's seriously flawed. I wonder if those guys are being paid by Monsanto. But a professor from the Australian Plant Phenomics Facility says the study is alarmist. That's what I love about the eugenicists, is because most of the things that they carry out on us, like the vaccines or the chemtrails or the stuff in the food that causes cancer, like saccharin or aspartame doing nerve damage, it takes time. Fluoride in the water, it takes time, generations for it to take hold, right? And it shaves off, decades of your life. So then by that time, like the cell phones, when it comes out that are actually causing brain tumors or cancer, radiation, or sterilizing you, well, sorry, there's a lot of people that are going to have already been dead that aren't going to be able to file lawsuits. But everybody that tries to come out and talk about all these things, that they're actually bad, well, they're alarmist. So, here we have study linking genetically modified crops and cancers question. So, yeah, see, this is another nice little hit piece to correct it, right? Facts fixing. But the experts are discussing the shocking findings of the peer-reviewed GMO cancer trial. So, the new peer-reviewed study to be published in the upcoming Food and Chemical Toxicology Journal in New York proves that GMO corn, the world's best-selling weed killer Roundup, causes increased tumors, multiple organ damage, and led to premature death in rats. So the recent findings that GMOs are clearly a health threat will likely give the campaign for Prop 37 a boost of credibility. Yeah, you remember this study as well. Just recently I covered this. Cargill and others behind anti-organic Stanford study. The anti-organic study is not news, rather a coordinated propaganda campaign. So from the London Telegraph ends his anti-organic food editorial with the following sentence: tomorrow the baby is going to get an extra dollop of pesticide sprayed carrots. The study said food with pesticides on it had nearly the same nutritional value the study claims as organic food, completely skipping over the whole point of eating organic. So you're talking about who's basically partnered with Stanford University in that. So conflict of interest is strange that Stanford University is partnered with agricultural giant Cargill, and it just happens that to come out with a study that suggests organic food is no better than its big agri competition. And Cargill has donated at least $5 million for the creation of this little basically a front group, right, for this research. Like Monsanto, they write their own research and get it passed. And vast study pinpoints 4 types of breast cancer, offers a roadmap to future cures. They say that it will take years. So it's going to take a long time. Slap that pink ribbon on your car and wear your ribbon like on Seinfeld and pay your money. And maybe in the future they'll have something to be able to cure it. Well, there's already ways to do it. I've already mentioned it, such as things as B17 or nitrolicides, laetrine, amygdaline, just stuff in your food and that. Different types of berries, even marijuana has been found with cancer. We were just talking about that. But they don't want you to do that. They want you to just keep forking over money into a black hole. MSM is breast cancer, miracle cure, and so much more. It's a recent study to suggest that it inhibits breast cancer growth. Or you could just hang in there and wait for the big biotech companies. So I'm just going to leave off right here. Please join me in part 2. All the headlines and links will be posted in YouTube's video description. Thank you.